So, health anxiety is obviously anxiety, which is kind of common and generalized in some respects, with from the lens of one's own health or fear of illness, essentially. And it's really just excessive worry about one's health. And oftentimes, people might misinterpret normal bodily sensations or minor symptoms as signs of serious illness, despite medical reassurance that everything is okay.
It also can be typified by like an increased use of medical services, a difficulty believing the the medical professionals when they provide reassurances, and an amount of psychological distress.
Oftentimes, it can become so intense that it impairs activities of daily living. As with any anxiety, there can be various causes of health related anxiety. And, it may not be one in particular, it could be a confluence. But certainly, we often, particularly from the biomedical perspective, look at the body, at biological factors, at genetic factors, such as family history of anxiety disorders, or even heightened sensitivity to bodily sensations. So, the bio or the biological component can definitely be part of this as a cause. And there might also be psychological factors such as history of illness or health related trauma. Um, People, for whatever reason, may have a lower tolerance for navigating uncertainty in their life, and or simply difficulty coping with stress.
Exposure to sickness of others and experiences of loss around sickness, certain media appetites around exposing self to medical news or certain things that can be quite concerning or plant seeds of anxiety. So some of the cognitive restructuring that can be done around health anxiety is to start to look at evidence in terms of the sorts of sensations or symptoms that you might be experiencing and the conclusions that you're drawing from them.
Oftentimes there's like a trigger, right? In this case, I have my hand or my finger stroking my hand, and then that could be the trigger. And then I have a thought or a memory about what that is. And then I'll have an emotional response, this is good or neutral or bad. And then a behavior, stop, continue, or it doesn't matter. And so just kind of oftentimes that process happens very quickly. But when we're kind of restructuring our cognition, we're paying attention to that kind of process.
Being able to face those anxieties or situations that bring upon some level of anxiety. And so often those exposures could look like kind of creating a hierarchy of situations that vary in the intensity of anxiety. And so we can slowly work your way up towards something that would start to help uh, someone face those anxieties in a way that is also combined with using the relaxation techniques so that they can gradually become more comfortable in those scenarios.
You can get yourself out of a stress response. That is, get out of that fight, flight, freeze and into the rest and digest simply by taking long exhalation breathing. This isn't meditation. You may even just count 3 to 4 seconds in and then just double that 6 to 8 seconds out. In breathing with long exhalations, we actually lower our heart rate, which brings us out of a stress response. Firstly, oftentimes the media can not be helpful. So reducing consumption of news or websites or whatever periodicals that may trigger health anxiety, being mindful of what we intake ultimately.
In terms of challenging the thoughts, I think just being able to entertain alternative explanations for what they're feeling can be a good way of starting.
So some specific relaxation techniques that can be helpful to assuage health-related anxiety or anxiety in general. I think the key is being consistent because we're really talking about forming a relationship with ourselves in which the constant is one of connection and deep care. Simply to have longer exhalations, so you could count 3 or 4 seconds in and just doubling that 6 or 8 seconds out. If we were to say, I'm going to do 30 long exhalation breaths, or I'm going to do long exhalation breathing for 5 minutes, um, that might help. And in that process, we actually lower our heart rate and we get out of a stress response. Some people also use mantras that help them to feel better, safer, like breathing in safety, breathing out security, or I am safe, I am healthy.
Social supports can be a really important thing. It's really important to talk to people and have people that we trust in our lives to be able to talk openly about this stuff too. Oftentimes we have people in our lives that we can express ourselves to, that can offer their perspective, and especially if we're coming from a place of worry and fear, they might be able to offer some balance to that, and it helps for them to be a trusted member, because we want to make sure that we can hear what they're saying and take it into account, and that allows us to sometimes step out of the anxiety a little bit to see how they might be seeing a certain situation.
Another part of this is simply just engaging in social activities that will provide a respite from your anxiety by giving a distraction. Sometimes it's helpful just to like get your mind out of yourself and focus on other people. And also, obviously, we have fun when we're socializing, ideally, most of the time. And if we're having fun, we might not be aware that, part of us gets highly anxious at times. And finally, there are support groups as well. So, specifically for individuals with health related anxiety, and they're there to share experiences and maybe to gain and share some coping strategies. So if you're struggling to walk this journey on your own, oftentimes, even if we know what we need to do to get better, um, either we may lack the motivation, or we might find it overwhelming, or the efficacy of the approach might not be as strong as if it could be when working with somebody else. So if you're noticing that, then certainly, I would advocate reaching out for support from, a healthcare professional, whether it's a psychotherapist or a medical doctor. And it's also important to seek professional help, particularly when the health anxiety is so significant that it's impacting one's ability to tend to their activities of daily living or causing significant distress.
Redbird Therapy.